Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Crypto Leviathan podcast. I'm your host, Dalibor. This is my co-host, Andrew. Welcome to the show. On today's topic, I thought it'd be great to talk about the increasing institutionalization of Ethereum. What are some pros and consequences of this, right? Because it's never, 100% good, 100% bad. We are biased as miners towards one direction, but I think it's important to have a holistic view of this. So the first thing I think we need to talk about is how Ethereum is going to change after the merge, right? So one of the biggest things that I'm seeing is the way it operates right now is we have a bunch of miners. Each miner represents a certain amount of work towards the network to keep it secure to process the blockchain. And all these are pooled together to like one, because when miners pull together, they get a larger piece of the reward that they can distribute amongst all the miners who are mining towards this group pool that's called. Under this, under a proof of stake system, the minimum buy-in, so that means the minimum Ethereum they have to put up as collateral is going to be 32 Ethereum, which translates to around 64,000 Canadian, or let's say 50,000 US. Why is this a problem? Well, it basically shuts a lot of the smaller people out, because I don't know about you, but putting $64,000 is a lot of money for most people, right? So it basically prevents them from being able to stake on their own. And so what they have to do is they have to use an exchange like Coinbase, crypto.com. So how does this benefit them? Well, let's say you get rewards at 3 or 4% and they give you 2%. So now they're like a bank, right? Where they are profiting off the spread of Ethereum. And this is just going to become more and more common with Ethereum. I wouldn't be surprised if that 32 ETH becomes 100 ETH, etc. So we're going to see the increasing amount of centralization of Ethereum going forward into the future. And the disadvantage of that is going to be, of course, wallets could then be blacklisted or, banned. And the reason for that is, let's say we have 5 or 6 exchanges that control the entire staking. They could, for specific wallets, prevent them from being able to be executed on the blockchain. So that's one disadvantage of this. Ethereum says they could punish them for doing it, but again, it's going to be irrelevant because these big companies could just say threaten to pull out, right? And then the hash rate's going to drop. In this case, it wouldn't be hash rate; it would be the validation size would drop significantly. So it's kind of a moot point. The benefits of this, though, is that increasingly big players are going to feel comfortable, investing in Ethereum and other Ethereum-related projects because there's going to be institutionalized support for this. So what are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
I think in regards to you saying that only big players will be, or I guess big players will have disproportionate advantage. I think so. That's for sure. And then you were saying how comfortable the average person would feel putting in. What was the amount? 64,000 or
A 32 Ethereum, which is around 64,000 Canadian, or around 50,000 US right now.
especially in something very, very volatile. So imagine if you put $64,000 in your savings account, you may not make a whole lot of interest, but the value of your savings account wouldn't also plummet 25% overnight.
Yeah. It's 64,000. It's not like I'm investing in, bonds or like real estate, something that doesn't fluctuate as much. This is like you said, you could lose 50% the next day kind of investment.
And if you're super wealthy, then I guess it's not a big deal. But if you're an average person, even upper middle class, it's still $64,000 still a lot of money that you can be putting in something else like real estate or even a nice car or something that, cars do lose money, lose value after driving off the lot. Maybe not so much right now, but normally they do, but not that much. And the value of your car wouldn't fluctuate that drastically overnight. But I think that goes to your original point of if you're super wealthy, then you won't care. But that's exactly your point of it'll disproportionately be advantageous to people who are very, very wealthy or very large players.
Absolutely. And they get all the rewards, right? Because they set up the validation node. They get like, let's say 5%, right? Of, let's say, staking rewards. I don't know what it is exactly for Ethereum. I know it's pretty low, but let's say it's 5%. They can then make money on that spread. So it's like a 2 or 3%, they pay you 2 or 3%, they pocket 2%. So how does that benefit you? It's worse. The new system is worse, in my opinion, because now you have companies where they're putting collateral. So like they're giving you their Ethereum that you're using their Ethereum to stake with. And these big institutions are making money off the spread. So they have very little risk. You bear more risk than these institutions now. So because that 2% spread, so let's say it takes 32 ETH and they have 5,000 ETH being staked at their place. Eventually they're going to make that 32 ETH. So everything else is profit for them. So even if something happens, shenanigans happen on the network, they don't really care. They think of it, oh, it's a $64,000 fine, right? So all the risk is actually on you because of this, in my opinion.
Is proof of stake still just around the corner?
Yeah, it's mid-September, mid to late September is the planned release.
And why is this date different than the previous ones that have come and gone?
There is a lot of institutions that are currently pressuring them to get this done because they want Ethereum to move to proof of stake. And they basically told these developers, you need to move. Otherwise, we're going to be pulling the plug on some projects. That's what I've heard.
Do you think that this is the set and final date that it will actually happen, or there could be another couple delays?
It could delay to like October-ish, I would say, but I assume it seems like the date is closer than it has been in years past. They've been talking about it for years, but I think there is it's different this time because there's institutional pressure, right? Because I think these developers have taken money from these big institutions and they're pressuring them.
And what's our plan? Are we shifting towards I don't know, Ravencoin or another?
Well, there's going to be like how do I call it? A crypto dark winter for miners for a brief period of time. Might be 6 months, 8 months till the market adjusts. But it's also going to be a good time if you have cash, because I assume a lot of people are going to give up mining. So you could probably get some really cheap equipment then. So we'll just survive the storm. We'll see. The thing is, like, considering how low our fixed and variable costs are, I think we can weather the storm. Not to mention the AC is coming off soon. So we're going to have extremely low costs going forward. So I think we'll be fine.
I just wonder what everyone will be mining. It's very strange to think that Ethereum may not be well, according to our theory, that the hype goes where the miners go. Then the next big platform or the next big network won't be Ethereum. And it's strange to think that that'll be the case. It's kind of like, we're in Canada, we use a Canadian dollar. Just, overnight we could be using a different currency.
Yeah. Well, that's the name of the game in crypto, right? There's hundreds of thousands of them. The way you get legitimacy as a cryptocurrency is based on user adoption, right? Whether or not people are using the platform. That's why Bitcoin is successful. That's why Ethereum is successful. It's all based on users, right? We could make a clone of Ethereum tomorrow. It doesn't mean that anyone will use it, right? You have to have the marketing. You have to get people to actually buy in. That's, I think, the important part that brings a value. It's kind of like fiat currencies, right? They don't have any value in itself. The only value they have is what people perceive the value to be.
Is that why Ethereum is so popular? Because the adoption and the I guess the marketing is led by heavy miner usage?
That's why I initially got adopted, right? Because what happened, I think our business partner would know this better, but after 2014 or 2015-ish, it was no longer profitable to mine Bitcoin with GPUs, right? So these people basically had a dark winter for about 6 to 8 months. They're just mining whatever just to scrape by, right? And then Ethereum came along and there was good marketing, good hype. Vitalik got kind of famous during this time. So a bunch of people shifted and the price went up. That made economical sense, to start mining it out again. So that's the precedent we've had in the past. Will it continue into the future? I highly suspect it, because mining does solves a use case that proof of stake can never do. And that is decentralization. right? If you want a exchange or a platform to not block or restrict transactions in any way, you have to use like mining, because proof of stake, because the wealthy get right, the rich get richer in proof of stake, right? If I have 1 million ETH, it doesn't matter what supply they increase, my amount of Ethereum will always go up, right? As long as I'm staking it. So the only way to get ahead is if you're mining, because you can add more GPUs than other people. There's, lower electricity costs, smarter business decisions, but proof of stake doesn't really allow that, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens, but I suspect there'll be another coin. There's a couple, like I know what's the one our partner keeps talking about?
There's Raven, there's
Raven,
Unflux.
Ergo, I think he's talked about too. But yeah, there's many coins. We'll see which one's the next big one. We're just going to focus on profitability, I think, for going forward, and just start stacking cash, because I think there are going to be some good GPU mining deals coming up in the next 3 to 4 months.
And also in terms of what you're saying about decentralization and going against the concentration of wealth, wouldn't it be something like I'm not sure if Raven is like this, but an ASIC resistant coin that would also be more ideal to achieve this goal?
This is the problem, I think, with ASIC resistance, at least with Ethereum. I'll give the example. So Ethereum was ASIC resistant for a long time. But what ends up happening is once these coins or cryptocurrencies get big enough, institutional or these big, large miners like Bitmain come along and say, hey, listen, we'll support your project, but don't make this ASIC resistant, right? So I think everyone's just prone to that, right? As soon as you get a large money offering coming in, you start relaxing this restriction. So that'll happen regardless of what coin. I think it just won't happen right away. It might be a couple of years down the road.
Okay, I guess we will see.
But it's inevitable, right? Ethereum started off, we're for the miners, we love the miners, and we've seen the transition, right? Remember last year how they basically released EIP 1559 just to punish miners? It didn't really solve any of the network problems. So go
you
ahead.
blame it on human nature.
Yeah, exactly. So the miners are great in the beginning. I think everyone's like, oh, we love miners, they give hype, like they provide us our network security. But then it ends up being, hey, let's get rid of these miners. Now we want to please institutions. So we'll see what happens. The thing is, Bitmain and all these like GPU companies are making a ton of money as well from GPU mining. So I just don't think it'll go away anytime soon. We will see a transition, like profits may be lower in the foreseeable future until the next coin or coins comes out that's hyped again,
Do you think once the miners start mining a new coin and that becomes super profitable, that coin's main developers will achieve the same level of fame that Vitalik has? Will we see a new Vitalik, that's linked to Ergo or Raven coin or Complex?
That's an interesting question. You have to look at the crypto space that has the internet in the 90s, right? That's the best comparison I have for it right now. Is we're in a bit of a wild west right now. So Ethereum could get knocked out tomorrow, by a competitor if they just have a better product. So if miners do end up supporting something else and their platform is better, faster transactions, lower gas fees, the developers have less political issues, it could easily happen. So it's tough to say, but I suspect there's a ton more room for, these crypto celebrities, as you would call them, the crypto founder celebrities.
Agreed. I can see miners going towards a certain coin, that being very popular. And then, the miners as well as the community wanting to hear from the developers, and they're going to start doing talks and showing up at these various crypto type events. So you can definitely see a shift towards whatever that new coin is, like a whole community being built around it, and like a fan base.
Yeah, like picture what happens if the coin becomes extremely profitable. We're going to be talking about it all the time. You don't think there's like other podcasts, other YouTubers who are just going to keep mentioning it, Twitter? So So yeah,
And we will be biased because we'll be mining it, but we're mining it because it's profitable, and it's profitable because it's a good product. So, it's all, it goes in tandem. So we'll be talking about it a lot more than Ethereum because, well, if we can't mine Ethereum and we can mine this, we're definitely going to do a lot of research into it. If Ethereum, or I should say, if all coins were proof of stake and we couldn't mine or make any money from it, I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast. I probably wouldn't be interested in crypto at all, really. Everything is proof of stake.
and proof of stake is boring because it's just our financial system right now, right? And what does proof of stake also allows them to inject money as whatever they want, right? So it just, in my opinion, proof of stake is like, let's bring our like the cryptocurrency environment closer to what we have currently in the world, which I guess if you're in the cryptocurrency space, most people want to get away from that, right? For now. But some people like that, right? Institutions like that because it makes them more comfortable to invest it in because it's more, there's more safety triggers for them, right? That a decentralized proof of work system doesn't allow them to have right now. Because what happens if your wallet gets stolen in proof of work? You can't really get it back, right, Andrew? You have to have the developers basically get it back for you. But in a proof of stake environment, you can basically freeze these wallets because these 6 exchanges have a monopoly on it. They can form a commission and do stuff like this, right? So there's that aspect. Also, like think about the government's perspective, right? They can put restrictions on these 6 companies, right? And let's say we're tracking down these people for money laundering, they stole money, whatever, freeze these wallets. And it won't be frozen the way a lot of people think that they're going to take your money out of your wallet. That probably won't happen. But what they can do is they can prevent transactions happening on the blockchain from that specific wallet. They could just blacklist it so it doesn't go through. So you're basically, your money is trapped there. And that's what will happen, which I think is it is a brilliant move because you have dead money now. So your only choice is, hey, give this back, or they just seize your wallet, right? So it's interesting.
So it'd be similar to, what was that situation in Ottawa with the truckers, and then people were donating money through, I don't know, GoFundMe or something, and getting their actual bank accounts frozen. So you could see similar action taken against people, but not against their checking account, but against their crypto wallets.
Yeah, and like right now, if you do it through Bitcoin, this is impossible, right? They can't do this. Even through Ethereum right now, it's very difficult to do. But under a proof of stake system that's highly centralized, this becomes a reality. That's very easy to do. And I think I was reading that Coinbase is going to be a huge staker of Ethereum. So if once that concentration happens, this will become commonplace. That I can assure you.
So I think the people who are donating money to the trucker protest, they were doing so through crypto. I'm not sure what coin they were using, but that was the news that they got GoFundMe closed their page or whatever, or their campaign, and so they had to kind of do a crypto workaround. So in this situation, or this possible forthcoming situation, that won't be possible because it'll be the exact same thing. It'll just be the government will take the exact same kind of action. So with that being said, I think people who have this in mind, or who I guess want the freedom to donate money or spend their crypto in any way they want, would also lean towards proof of work coins. So that might be another, I guess, like the feather in the cap for proof of work coins and proof of work networks.
Absolutely. I mean, it also depends, Andrew, like how it's implemented, right? Because I think the problem is the way Ethereum is going to implement it. It's going to it's basically leads to high centralization. But I think Polkadot does it well because you only need to put up 100 DOT, which is, I think, at current price like $2,000 to become a validator. So that's a pretty low barrier to entry, if you would, right? So it doesn't stop small guys from doing it. So you're not going to get that concentration because these exchanges will have the largest percentage. However, people will just do it on their own because the returns are better, right? So the way Ethereum's going, high centralization, that's where it's going to be problematic. But if proof of stake is implemented where the barrier to entry is very low, then I don't think it's as much of an issue because then anyone can set up their own staking model, and they get the same returns.
Well, I always say that there's going to be delays in Ethereum switching to proof of work, but proof of stake. But I actually hope that it happens sooner than later. I just want to see what happens.
Yeah, and I suspect that they're trying to be shady about it too, right? They're not announcing when the last block is going to be mined, because they know that once the people know, they're going to stop mining beforehand, and the hash rate's going to drop, and it's going to make them vulnerable to, it's called a 51% attack. When someone controls 51% of the mining network, they can just do whatever they want. So they're worried about that. That's why they're not announcing it. But again, it's just like, it's kind of like the last FU to miners. They've been treating miners poorly for the last 3 or 4 years, like Ethereum. So this is just kind of like the last. It's like the breakup before a bad relationship. That's the way I'm gonna put it.
If all the miners dropped off today, could proof of stake still happen?
Yeah, it could. The problem is, like, we don't know exactly how many ASICs are on the network, right? The ASICs won't drop off because what else are you going to do with them? So the GPUs all drop off. They might have like 30% of the network left. Who knows? I'm just guessing.
That would make a very messy transition to proof of stake, where you could have a 51% attack
it would-
before proof of stake.
It would make it messy, and also the transactions fees would be a lot higher because there would be less people supporting the network.
But that action alone would probably be enough to ruin the public's image towards Ethereum. And whether or not they go proof of stake at that point would be irrelevant. People would just move on to something else, like a 51% attack potentially.
Yeah, but it's happened in the past with Ethereum, right? And what they've done is they just reversed that hack. If you look at it historically, I forget what exact details were, but someone stole, like, I think 200 million or something, and then the developers released an update to Ethereum that reversed that hack, and that was unprecedented at the time.
Right. So they could reverse it, and people potentially wouldn't lose money, but I think people would lose a lot of faith. And
Well, it's already happened. It's already happened. They already established that precedent.
Yeah.
So I don't think this would be anything new. That's what I'm trying to say.
I just think the bad publicity wouldn't be good for just.
No, but can you say Ethereum developers have good publicity at this point? They're pretty much known as political, a lot of infighting, and slow to release features. That's basically what they're known as.
How big would you say the core Ethereum development team is?
I don't know. It's pretty large because especially now, because they get a lot of institutional funding. I remember, like, they had like 20 core in their committee, like, what that makes these decisions. How many actual developers? Probably like a couple hundred at this point. Because it's becoming funded, right, by these banks, like institutional entities, hedge funds. So they're getting a lot of capital now to go into this direction. So that's why I say it might be 32 Ethereum now, which some people who've been mining for a long time can make the switch. But what's going to prevent them from upping it to 64 or 128 in the future, or 500 or 1,000, right? Nothing. So that's the direction I see it going. And I think another important thing to talk about is Tornado Cash. So are you familiar with what happened there, Andrew?
You gave me a brief update, but please elaborate.
So Tornado Cash is like a mix-in. It uses smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain to obfuscate wallet addresses. And what does this mean? This means that, for example, I am going to send money to Andrew. I want to send money to Andrew. I would use Tornado Cash to obfuscate the sending address. So the money would go from my wallet into Tornado Cash, and it would go from Tornado Cash to Andrew's wallet. But they wouldn't know where the money came from, and they wouldn't know who I sent the money to. That was the advantage of using Tornado Cash. So the SEC didn't like this. So what they did is anyone who used Tornado Cash got flagged and banned, basically, from using this network. And of course, we know exchanges complied with this. So also the developer who made Tornado Cash, he actually got a warrant out for his arrest, which was shocking. And the Ethereum developers, obviously, they're like, oh, this is unacceptable, blah, 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 blah. This shouldn't be done. But I think we know when push comes to shove, these big institutions will cave to the government and these exchanges. So I think that's a symbol of things to come, in my personal opinion. I think this is just scratching the iceberg. These institutions will say, "Oh, this is a one-time event. It won't happen. We'll do it in the future." But history has shown otherwise. Because you're not just looking after your what's it called, the network. You're also protecting your shareholders, your customers, and the government could really screw you up, right? They could start auditing your business regularly, looking for little things to find you. Because let's be honest, as a business, if a government really wants to, they could screw up your business pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be you don't want to be flagged.
Yeah, so they will comply. I can tell you that right now. Anyone who thinks this is a one-off event, I think you're living in a fantasy world, my friend.
That's why Dalibor and I, we just mine. We don't rock the boat.
No, and it's like we're not big fish, right? We can't really fight the system. Even if we did, it's like they're just so powerful that we're better off taking advantage of it versus, fighting them head on,
Yeah, we're hardly activists or anything like that. We just mine and and talk about something we're enthusiastic about. But that's it.
Like even about politics, it's like I don't care like whether you're left wing or right wing. All we care about is how we if we can make money doing this, or if it benefits us, that's what we do, right? It's like because we view it as politics as two sides of the same coin, right? Everyone's looking out for their own interests. It doesn't matter what political party you are from. That's what we're doing. We're looking out for our own interests and obviously for our interests of our audience, right? So
So what do you
Andrew,
think?
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you think will be the outcome with the arrest regarding Tornado Cash?
That's interesting. So we'll see, because it's not like he committed any crimes. He developed the software, right? Unless they say developing this kind of software is criminal, but then that'll be a rabbit hole. Because then you'll need to find what kind of software is criminal. So that's because think about it, Andrew. We've never had in the history of the internet any guy who developed a piece of software that was criminal. You could have developed something to hack every computer in the world, but if you never used it, it's not criminal, right? But
Yes.
this is he developed software, published it, but he didn't himself partake in it. Let's say he didn't use this. So how is that criminal? Or I don't know. But also it's like imagine building something that you don't even know is criminal and then they come after you. So that's the problem.
It just kind of reminds me of a case I had read. It was I think the the owner of the company was in, I want to say, in British Columbia, and it was he was building like these, I think they were Blackberries or something, and he was putting their own like firmware on or something to make them untraceable, and then they're selling them to like drug dealers and criminals and that kind of thing. Um, and he ended up going down. I think the RCMP arrested him. I don't remember the details, so I don't know what they charged him with, but it kind of sounds similar in that he just built this device. One could argue that he wasn't using them to commit crimes; he was just selling them to people. I don't know what people are going to do with them, but I think in his particular case, he was like selling them directly to known criminals, and he was like marketing to them.
But even then, like I guess like I don't know what they charge them with. Maybe like tampering or like whatever.
Well, we may have a crypto lawyer coming up in the near future on the podcast. So these are some interesting questions I'd love to ask him to get his insights on.
Yeah, it's because it's a gray area, right, Andrew? Imagine we develop some software that allows you to, I don't know, send money to different blockchains, right? We accept Bitcoin, and it sends money on the Ethereum blockchain. And for whatever reason that becomes criminalized and we go to jail. That makes no sense. It's like, how do we know, right?
I think my advice to any developer or anyone who he thinks that there might be some shady people or people who are just not viewed favorably by the government that will use your service, maybe before releasing it, talk to a lawyer and get some advice, because a lot of laws, whether they be tax laws or criminal laws, are just written so vaguely that they can be interpreted in a variety of ways. And when you're flagged, they will interpret it against your interests.
And Andrew is saying this because he is currently in law school, and then he knows that these rules like are implemented this way, right? For specific reason to have flexibility. But what happens with flexibility, you can interpret things in multiple ways, right? And if the government really wants to get you, they could put you in front of a judge that they know will rule their way, right, Andrew?
They have a lot more resources than you do.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you a lot to fight. It's going to cost you a lot of your time, but they have unlimited money that they get through both printing and taxation.
Taxation, you could be paying for your own case. Think about that.
You are indirectly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of these politicians, like they're so human. Like they can really push something, and they don't want to back down, right? A lot of people, I think it's human nature to not want to admit you're wrong. So they're no different, but the only difference is they have more power than you.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you win, supposedly this case, you don't think the government might have not someone in the government might have a grudge against you, and they'll just start searching other things in your life?
Well, look, how did they get Al Capone?
Or tax evasion.
Yeah, like the guy was a murderer and a gangster, but they couldn't get him on that, so they just found something to get him on. So,
but think about how easy it is to charge someone with tax evasion. Have you ever sold anything on Kijiji? That's tax evasion.
Right.
That's tax evasion. You didn't report it. You have to charge HST. You have to report it on your income. That they could charge you for that.
They'll find you for they'll get you on a law that perhaps you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, they could do that too. There's many antiquated laws, and remember I told you the ridiculous one where like the man has to walk towards the side of the street, he can't walk. The woman has to walk on the other away from the street, and if they could fine you if you don't do that.
Is that in the criminal code or like a city bylaw?
It was in the criminal code for a long time.
Yeah, I know there's quite a few interesting ones. I highly recommend watching John Stossel on YouTube. I believe it was either John Stossel or Reason TV, and they were interviewing some like business owners or just people from the States who served prison time for like very obscure laws. One guy, I think like he was like importing fish or something from like a distributor, but he wasn't, and I guess maybe the seafood distributor was from another country, and he would bring it the last leg of the trip or whatever, but he wasn't storing it in proper containers or something like that. It was like lobsters or some kind of seafood, and he went to prison for that.
Yeah.
It was a victimless crime, It was like, well, arguably not even a crime. He was just doing what he always did, but he just didn't know the exact regulations around it. And apparently, if you're in violation of that, it just carries prison time.
And I think this is the uncomfortable truth, but if you want to be a successful business owner, like if you have a very large business, you're forced to basically donate to political parties, because how are you going to keep them off the back, off your back? Oh, you need friends in government. That's basically it. So they're going to scratch your back. You're going to have to scratch their back. That's how it works. So that's why we see, companies, donating or picking sides. It's just how the world works, right? We're not here to, say like this is wrong or right. It's just how the world works. You could like it or not, but you could fight the system and you're probably going to lose, or you can take advantage of it and win. So that's the way we look at it. Do you agree, Andrew?
Yeah, for sure. That's just the unfortunate way of the world. So, doesn't mean you still can't make money and be successful, but just gotta be cognizant of these things.
Yeah, it's because like anyone, like corruption is real and it happens more often than people think, but not in the ways that people, think it happens. It's not like I just go over, to my politician's office and then throw a stack of cash on the desk. That's not how it works. That's too obvious. They'll get caught.
You gotta lobby.
Yeah, it's through lobbyists. So I, for example, hire someone to work on his team, give him info, etc. And then when he ends office, I give him like a position in my company, a high up position, or I give him stock options. There's so many things that I could do. I know in Canada, lots of politicians get stock options to their spouses or family. That way they don't get it, but their family gets it. That way when they when they get audited or whatever, it doesn't show up. And I'm not going to mention any names, but that's what happens. All right. Anyways, we went on a rant about government corruption, etc. But yeah, we're just bringing it back to Tornado Cash just to say that if you're trying to fight the government, you probably will lose because they have many ways to screw you over, much more than most people think.
So I think if the other solutions, if you're going to develop something like that, like Tornado Cash, you got to go the Satoshi route. How do you pronounce it?
Satoshi.
Yeah, you got to pronounce. Sorry, you got to go that route because that's the only way you can get away with it is by being completely anonymous. You know, I know I imagine developers like to get the publicity or the recognition for their hard work. But if you're going to release something that may become controversial, then if you release anonymously, then that's the only way to kind of protect yourself, or at least more likely way to protect yourself because they could still find you. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, but also Satoshi did it at a time in like the late 2000s when internet, tracking wasn't as big. No one was data mining back then like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do it anonymously right now, it's going to be a lot more difficult. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you jump through a lot of hoops.
A ton of hoops. Because I was reading that like Microsoft, like on Windows 11, keeps track of the statistics you're doing on your computer. So, they could find you through the stats, that you're doing on your computer. So it's a lot harder to, do that nowadays on the internet. And some companies are even requiring you to log in to even view videos now or do other things, right? So they're just putting more gates on. Like, have you noticed that they're using the guise of age restriction to actually force you to log in and so they can track you? I've noticed that on like Twitter and other places.
I don't use most of these services, so take your word for it.
Yeah, but I've been noticing that they're using a login to restrict you from accessing free content that was before in the internet. Like I remember I would go on Reddit and I'd scroll down. It says, please log in to view more. And it's like, I'm just reading what people are commenting. So that's the direction we're moving the internet, where they're basically forcing you to have to log in so they can track what you're doing.
Let's see what else we got to cover. I thought maybe we'd end it off with a little bit of news. So I don't know if there's anything that you come across of interest. I did see this article from Rolling Stone about it's more of an opinion piece, I suppose. It says, will this be the first country bankrupted by crypto? And they're just talking about how El Salvador had adopted Bitcoin as one of its legal legal currencies along with the US dollar. And because of the crash of Bitcoin, it's affected their I guess ability to repay debt and that kind of thing. It doesn't really say go into the specifics, but just mention protesters and people who have gone against who are anti Bitcoin as El Salvador's one of their two main currencies. And I'm just looking at this picture here, and it's funny because people wearing that that mask that Anonymous wears.
Yes, Guy Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes, yeah. And they're protesting against Bitcoin. But I always thought people who were part of that movement who would wear that mask would be pro Bitcoin. So it's kind of confusing for me.
That is very confusing.
But I suppose they're just wearing that mask just so that the the police or whoever can't easily track them during the protest.
Yeah, I was looking. That mask is pretty expensive too.
You can probably buy them from like Alibaba for cheaper, like a gift one.
But it also depends on the quality of it, right? The Hackers Anonymous used it for a long time, right? The Guy Fawkes mask as well.
Say again.
The hacker group Anonymous. You remember them? Mm-hmm. I think they used them for a long time as well.
Yeah. And what else did I see?
So how is it affecting their debt situation exactly? So if Bitcoin, if your debt was in Bitcoin, let's say you owe 2 Bitcoin and it dropped by half, shouldn't that mean that you owe less?
The article doesn't go into detail, and I wasn't even aware that the government there was like, I thought they would just allow the people to use it in terms of like kind of gave Bitcoin their endorsement and said, hey, businesses accept this, and
Are they
people
forcing it
people.
down people? Is that what's happening?
I never looked into it. I don't know, but the
Uh,
article doesn't go into that detail. It was mostly talking about um, like the resistance to it and the anti-Bitcoin movement down there.
But what are they? What's the anti-Bitcoin movement even saying? Like, what are they? What are they exactly? What are exactly their points? That's what I'm curious about.
So one one part of the article was about Mario Gomez, who is I guess a anti Bitcoiner, I don't know what you would call him. He was dragged from his car, handcuffed and detained, and there was no warrant for his arrest, and it was mainly because he had gone to Twitter and was being critical of the government, being critical of their choice to use Bitcoin. So the article is more centered around
But
things of
yeah,
this nature.
so here's the thing. He's being critical of the government, not of the coin, right? That's I think the big
Uh,
distinction.
well, I think critical of the government using the coin. So
Okay,
inform the Salvadoran public about the cryptocurrency that was soon going to become the official tender in the Central American country, while questioning the government's motives for adopting it.
got it. Okay.
Yeah. So who knows, right? Maybe he's insinuating that um, that the government officials who are making these decisions have a horse in the race. It's kind of like similar insider trading. If these people know that they're going to adopt it, and they just go long on it.
Yeah.
But it's one country, right? So I don't know how much that announcement had affected the market, because it was quite a while ago, so I don't really recall. But as you can see, crypto is very, very prone to large shifts based off of news, whether it be Elon Musk or something similar.
Yeah, I have something. So did you listen to Jerome Powell's speech? He's the Fed chair in the US.
No, what was it regarding?
So it was regarding interest rates. So he was talking, he's like, we're going to keep raising interest rates and we're going to hold them for a long period of time. And that sent the crypto market crashing and the stock market crashing. So what are your thoughts on this guy, Andrew? Do you honestly think that they're going to keep raising rates and they're going to hold them for a long time? I don't think that makes sense. It's
I don't know.
possible. It's possible, but the economy's going to be down the tubes if they do that.
I don't know. I, you and I discussed this before, and we said, eventually they'll have to stop, and that's probably likely true. But when and at what point, I don't know.
Yeah, because I know I read some ridiculous comments. I read one comment they're going to raise it to 10%. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. You're going to be everyone's going to be out of a job if that happens. So they will have to stop at one point. Will they hold it for a long term while there's like massive unemployment and people losing jobs? I doubt it. So I think they're just saying this just to seem tough, but we'll see. Like, no, it's tough to predict because the market's been super volatile this entire year, I would say.
Aren't we looking at another potential increase in September for Canada?
Yeah, they're talking about like 50 basis points or like 0.5% to 0.75%. Some people are even saying 1%, but I don't know if that's going to happen again.
I did want to talk about a scam. I believe someone may have tried to target me with a scam as well. So this is from CNBC,
Uh-oh.
and it's called the pig butchering scam. So it says, got a text from a wrong number. It could be an attempt at pig butchering, a crypto scam costing investors millions. Essentially, what it is that an attractive person, woman, male or female, will message you on like WhatsApp or something, and pretend that it's like the wrong person. Like, oh, sorry, I thought this was like Joe or something like that. And then you strike up a conversation, and then they try to lure you. I guess they would probably move the conversation solely towards crypto over time, and they would try to get you to. And I guess it's only effective if you actually invest in crypto, or maybe you don't, but you're able to, and you have the ability to transfer these funds. They send you kind of like a Coinbase type clone, perhaps with a different name, that they try to get you to put money in, and you'll see like these really good returns and that kind of thing. And you might actually get a little bit of money first, kind of like kind of like a Ponzi scheme where you start seeing a little bit of returns, and then they get you to put more and more money in, and eventually they just cut you off, and your crypto is gone permanently. So I guess what to look out for is when someone messages you on, and I think WhatsApp would be big because it's something where you can see a profile picture. So if someone, so say you're a guy like Dalibor and and someone messages you on WhatsApp, and it's a woman with a very attractive photo saying, hey, hey Mike, and obviously it's Dalibor and Andrew, so hey Mike, long time no talk or whatever, and you're like, oh hey, this is the wrong person, but you're enticed to keep talking to them because of that photo, and they're going to be super receptive to that, whereas a regular person would not message you back if once they realize it's the wrong person, especially them not having seen you. So this happened to me. I got a message on WhatsApp, good looking girl, and was looking for Jack from Toronto or something. I was like, no, this is Andrew from Toronto. And then kept talking to me, telling me about her job, gave me her phone number, said that she's living in like Hong Kong or something, and that she'll be in Toronto in October. We should have dinner. And I was like, at some point, I was like, either this is a scam or this is like a spy or something, Like there's obviously something going on. Didn't even ask me for my photo once,
Yeah, that's fucking strange.
And then I wasn't messaging back, and then she would message the next day with another phone number, or no, from another number to my number through WhatsApp, and said, oh, hey, this is my personal number. That was my work number, whatever. I suspect because the previous number was probably blocked or reported because that person's probably messaging many, many people. So I was like, hey, can you send me a photo, a selfie? Send me a bunch of like photos out in public, right? Like a bunch of like photos from a previous trip. I was like, no, send me a selfie right now. And she said, oh, she can't. She's with her mom right now. I was like, okay, well, send it to me later. We messaged later. I was like, send me a selfie with your, I think I said like your left index finger touching your nose. And then she got all defensive and said, I don't have to do that. I was like, okay. So you should use the same authentication technique that like a dating app would. I think Tinder for a while was doing things like that, where it's like to prove that it's your photo, they'll give you like a very short amount of time to take a selfie doing something that they're showing in an image, like touch your head or point at your nose or something that you wouldn't be able to just grab a stock photo of if you had a bunch of photos of this random person. So that's something you can do to weed these people out, or just know that if it's a very attractive person messaging you, even though they thought they're messaging someone else, and they continue to talk to you despite not asking you for your photos, or even if they ask you for your photos and they're just super receptive to talking to you, probably a scam.
What's funny, Andrew? I think a similar thing happened to me. There's just like I got a message on WhatsApp, similar to you. Some Asian woman was in the profile picture. I'm like, oh, she's really good looking. I take that photo.
Might have been the same person. Might have, yeah.
I take that photo and put it in Google search. I find out some K-pop star. Like it matches. So I'm like, this is a scam.
Who knows? Maybe that was really her.
Oh
trying to get you to invest in her crypto business.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But for whatever reason, if you do think that maybe this is a legitimate person, then they shouldn't have an issue with sending you a photo on request.
Just go on a video call with them. Simple.
Right. Yeah, that's what she wasn't going to do. She said, oh, she wouldn't go on video chat because she was with her family or whatever nonsense. Right. A regular person would not have any objection, or maybe not on the spot, but within the same couple hours, they might be like, oh yeah, we'll do it in a few hours or whatever. If they're really resistant to that, 100% scammer. Yeah. Probably a dude. Probably a guy.
Who the hell knows where they are in the world, scamming you.
Another one of interest, because this actually affected somebody I knew from university. It's very similar. They start chatting with you, but then they say, hey, let's go on, and they'll be very, very pushy for you to go on video chat, and of which they will go on video chat as well. And they're trying to do what's the video equivalent of sexting? Like, I don't know, just like getting nude on video. They want to catch you masturbating. They're going to be very insistent to see your picture, your face, and what you're doing. And they'll be doing stuff too, but that is actually a pre-recorded video that just is they loop it in such a way that it corresponds with what they're typing that they're saying they're doing. So it's just very convincing. And once they get that video of you, and they definitely would have wanted to add you on all kinds of social media, because they're going to threaten to throw that video onto, like, send it to DM all your friends and family if you don't pay them $5,000 or something like that. So that's actually affected someone I knew in university, because I remember this random guy that I used to be friends with asked me for money. He's like, can I borrow some money? I was like, sure. But and then I had heard other people say that he asked them to borrow money as well, and the reason was probably because he couldn't make tuition because he probably paid $5,000 or whatever to one of these people.
I don't even know what I do in that circumstance. I just what would you do, Andrew, if you got caught in something like this?
Well, why would you even let that happen, right? Like, you know what I mean? Why would you even do that for someone you haven't met?
Yeah,
Or
but let's say for whatever reason you got caught doing this, whatever. Like,
I'm not paying $5,000. I don't care what you do.
yeah, go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
That's what I lean to.
Because
You know
here's
what?
my question: if even if you pay, what's stopping them from doing it anyway?
Yeah, they could just say, "Give me 10 grand in a year," right?
Exactly.
But if it's already out there, it's out there.
Yeah. Just let it happen, and then you message your friends and family who got it, and just say, "Hey, sorry, I meant to send that to somebody else."
Or you just say that's a deep fake.
Yeah, there you go. Just say it's a deepfake. That's a very good answer.
How are they gonna know?
Go make your own deepfake of that same video and go put like Tom Cruise on your face. Like, see, it could be anybody. I don't know.
Yeah,
Someone sent it to me and said that was me. I was like, that's not me.
yeah. Or you could honestly say someone had a vendetta against you, right? And then that they create a deep fake.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried. That's the thing. Like nowadays with the internet, especially as deep fakes get better, Andrew, someone could create a video of you looking like making you like looking like a gangbanger shooting people on the streets, but it's not, that doesn't mean you did it, right?
Correct. So yeah, I did watch a video about how I think it's called DARPA, Defense Advanced Research. I don't remember the full, but it's like a U.S. military research agency, and they're working on counter deepfake detection technology. So they know that if you're not catching up with that stuff, then eventually, it's an arms race, because that's going to affect the court systems too, because it's going to be very hard to, it's going to be easy to manufacture evidence. So you need a way to be able to detect it, because right now you think videos are foolproof. Like, oh, we have a video of him doing it or her doing it. It won't mean anything in a few years.
Yeah, because like you can fake someone doing anything. So
Yeah. So that's our weekly scam alert.
yeah, crazy. The scams are getting more sophisticated, Andrew?
Yeah, just don't give anybody any money, and just don't let yourself be filmed doing anything nude or sexual. And I think
Yeah.
you'll be okay. Just don't send anybody money, and don't let anyone get pictures or videos of you naked. I don't know how you can go wrong after that.
But even if they do, just say it's a deep fake
Correct.
and you're
Don't.
good.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to prevent something than having to, deal with it after the fact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, this concludes the podcast. So we will be having a guest next week. Interesting, very interesting personality. So look forward to it.
Cool.
Peace, everyone.